The following program may contain coarse language, violence, nudity, mature subject matter, or scenes which may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. Sorry about that. I'm running a little slow here. The fingers are kind of saying, well, I want to do this. The brain's saying, no, you've got to do that. And, well, my apologies. This has been a strange day for everyone. The tariffs keep on climbing. People are getting more frustration. More people are losing their jobs. The United States government is starting to look more like a, how can I best describe this? It looks like something you'd see in a conspiracy movie, but you just can't find this anywhere because it is so ridiculous. It is so out of the norm. Here you've got the strongest country in the world. You've got a president who, I don't know why he does what he does. You've got a democratic country being run by a convicted felon. He breaks the law each and every day. He signs more executive orders than any other president in history, and nobody stops him. Nobody. All he's doing is he's bullying people. He thinks that he's going to come and take over Canada. You've got another thing coming, Mr. Trump. You want to take over Greenland? The Danish people say, no way. You've got people within your administration who are going into different departments within the government, and I'm talking about the Department of Education, the CIA, the FBI, and people are losing their jobs. And these are people who have very sensitive jobs. These are people that are needed in today's society. Excuse me. You've got these people who have dedicated their lives to law enforcement, to intelligence, to the teaching industry. And you've got this whack-a-mole of a president who says, no, they're all lying. It's all fraud. It's this, that, and the other thing. And this is coming from a convicted felon. So tell me, where is the world going in this crazy, upset, ding-dong time in our history, in our lives? I never thought I'd see this happening. And I've had the opportunity of speaking to many people over the last couple of days who say, no way, this can't be real. You know, something is desperately wrong with this system. How do we change it? Can it be changed, or is it too late? I don't know, explanation. Welcome back, though. It's always great having you here with us in the X Zone. We're here Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight. And joining me this hour is a gentleman I've had the pleasure of having on the show before. His name is Peter METZNER. And we're going to be talking about dreams, shadow work, psychology, personality, and yes, even Mr. Trump. And by the way, Mr. Trump, if you or any of your groupies are listening, I take it as a definite insult and a personal insult when you call Canada your 51st state, and you have the audacity to be disrespectful and call our prime minister the governor of your 51st state. You've got another thing to learn, and you're going to be seeing something that you're not ready for. You think that you hold all the cards? I think you're in for a surprise, Mr. Trump. I really do. Joining me now from Chapel Hill, North Carolina, is my guest this hour, Peter METZNER. Welcome back to the X Zone. And Peter, I'm sorry I had to go on that little diatribe, But I'm telling you, buddy, it's frustration does not even scratch the surface of this iceberg that we're calling reality these days. So thanks very much for coming on the show.
Well, it's an honor and a pleasure and a privilege, and I'm glad to be here. And I share your pain. On this side, there's an awful lot of pain as well. It's baffling, it's numbing, it's paralyzing, just to name a few.
Yeah, to really think that he believes that he can just do what he wants to whoever he wants. My God, if he's not taking the security detail of some of the most popular members of your political government, didn't he take the security detail off of Joe Biden?
I think he's trying to. I'm not sure how that's standing, but he wants to. There's no doubt about that.
I as a Canadian find it totally beyond belief. Like, this is a topic made for this show. Because you talk about UFOs, people can believe in that. You talk about ghosts, people can believe in that. You talk about a whacked out president who's breaking the law while he's creating his own laws. It's like, nah, that can't happen in reality, but it is.
It did. And it's happening, and people are waving the flags while they're doing it. Some people.
Yeah, but which flag are they flying? Are they waving the Russian? Are they waving the Chinese? Are they waving the American? Who knows these days? Tell us a little bit about yourself, Peter, because since you were on with us last time, the X-Zone Nation has grown a little bit, and I'd like you to tell the listeners, the new listeners who haven't been with us last time, all about you and what you do and how you got to do that thing you do.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. So I do, in short, I do leadership coaching. I teach coaching classes. I also teach a class on leadership at UNC. And so my fascination is with healthy leadership and what does it take to become whole, to become healthy, and to create psychological safety. And with the events that are coming, it's just so very disturbing. We can see the effects of one person who's out of touch with not only his emotions, but with reality, but yet has such charisma, such power, and has created a cult-like movement. And so it really brings me to the topic and the fascination with shadows and shadow work and why that's so vitally important. Just a quick quote, George Conway, who is in the Republicans Against Trump, he says that whatever Trump accuses somebody of doing is actually a confession. And so that's a projected. Wounded people wound others, and we wound people through our wounds. And if we're not aware of that, and if we don't own that part, we can wreak tremendous damage. So here you have a celebrity and someone that has some kind of dark charisma, who's projecting all of his pain, his whatever you want to call it, his malaise, onto the world. And ultimately, it's going to be destructive. And ultimately, I believe he's going to be self-destructing as well.
But how is what he's doing today, how is this going to affect the future of the United States on the global market, on the global stage? For example, I understand that he's trying to make it that he can actually run again and have a third term and a fourth term. Whoever the president is who follows President Trump, they're going to have their hands full for a long time. And what he's doing today is changing history.
Yes. Yeah, there's going to be an awful lot of healing taking place. And so for me, the way I look at it, I try to do what I can where I am with what I have. So many of these things are beyond my control. But I've been influenced by the writings of Margaret Wheatley. She wrote a book, Who Do We Choose to Be? And she coined the term islands of sanity. So there's so many things we can't control, but how do we create islands of sanity where we are, in our homes, in our workplace, in our neighborhoods? And that's huge. Maybe we can't change the horrific damage that's being done, but what we can do is embody the human qualities of decency, of kindness, and seeing that the human race is all family. And if enough of us do that, that can be significant.
What message are we giving our children and the leaders of tomorrow, where you have a convicted felon being the president of the United States who exonerates, 1,500 people who were found guilty and convicted under the law.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay to do that because he still believes that it was a rigged election.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Now truth has become fiction. Fiction is truth.
Yeah.
And it's an inversion of morality. And that's you could say in many ways shadow. That if I only associate with what I think is good, then I can do tremendous harm and evil. And the problem with evil is that people don't recognize when it's being done, and people who think that they're holy and righteous can do tremendous harm.
Okay, so based on your experience, how hard is it going to be to change everything back to some semblance of sanity?
That's the $1 million question. The quote that comes up is Picasso. He said, to create something new, something old has to be destroyed. And I think what we're seeing is potentially destruction of our way of life on so many levels. And out of that, there has to be enough people who are awake, conscious, integrated, and whole to be able to say, let's carry on. We've got to be healthy. I have been accused of being an optimist. I wish I could be, but I don't see this coming to a close without an immense amount of destruction on so many levels.
I think that he's deliberately trying to push people to do something that these people would never, ever even think of, so that the action they take will give him the reason to do what his original plan was or is. And he doesn't care who he takes down as long as he's Donald J. Trump and he gets to sit in front of a camera and sign an executive order.
Yeah. Well, there's no empathy. There's no humanity. And it's all about he wants. And the tragedy is how many people will suffer and die, because of his delusions, let's say.
What do we know about his past and what may have driven him to be the person he is today?
Well, his niece, Mary Trump, wrote a very interesting book about the family. And the title actually escapes me. I read it and I gave it to a friend about something to affect how the Trump family created the most dangerous person in the world. And she is a psychologist, and she has a PhD in developmental psychology. I think she was at the University of Chicago, I believe. And she writes that her grandfather was a sociopath. Fred Sr. was a sociopath. And so many of these despots, they had very difficult childhoods, very abusive parents. The mother was very sickly and absent, so he didn't have that nurturing. And his father was a very cruel person. So, from the very beginning, he never got what he needed for bonding, for affection. And now here he is, just like so many other despots, a man-child that's
Right.
wreaking all of his pain and projecting all of his insecurities onto the world.
Peter, you and I have to take our first break, so please stand by. Again, thank you very much for coming on and sharing with us. And Explanation, if you'd like to get some more information about our guest this hour, his website is dynamiccangeinc.com. And Peter and I will be back as we continue this stranger than truth. Yeah. Stranger than truth, stranger than reality, stranger than any UFO story I've ever heard. This even beats the JFK assassination conspiracy. We call it Trumpism. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
Are you ready to dive into the mysteries of the unknown? Tune into the electrifying X-Zone radio TV show hosted by the one and only Rob McConnell.
I'm Rob McConnell, and get ready for a mind-bending journey through the unexplained phenomenon that surrounds us all. From UFO encounters to cryptids, ghosts, and everything in between, we've got it covered here in the X Zone.
Rob McConnell, the seasoned investigator and renowned radio personality, brings you the most compelling interviews with top experts, authors, and experiencers from around the world. Each episode is an unforgettable exploration into the depths of the extraordinary.
That's right, X Zone Nation. Join me every week as we open the door to the supernatural and explore the strange and amazing stories that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew.
And it's not just radio anymore. With our groundbreaking TV show, you can now witness the sessions unfold right before your eyes. From chilling reenactments to captivating visuals, prepare yourself for a multimedia experience like never before.
With a legacy spanning over 2 decades, the X Zone Radio and TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, is your ultimate source for mind-blowing entertainment and thought-provoking discussions. Join our growing community of truth seekers as we continue to unlock the world's mysteries.
So, why wait? Step into the X Zone and embark on a journey that will challenge your beliefs, ignite your curiosity, and keep you on the edge of your seat.
Remember, X Zone Nation, the truth is out there, and it's waiting for you right here on the X Zone Radio and TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell. Don't miss a minute of the action.
Tune in now on your favorite radio station or visit xzoneradiotv.com to join the adventure. The X Zone Radio TV show with Rob McConnell, where reality meets the unknown.
The X Zone Radio TV show, unraveling the secrets of the universe, one episode at a time. For more information, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Peter METZNER is our special guest this hour. And you know, Peter, I just came up with a great title for President Trump's follow-up book for Art of the Deal. It should be called Art of the Steal. Because he certainly is going to do his best to steal Canada and every other country that he likes to get his little grubby paws on. Peter, you talked about shadow, and I was wondering if you could tell me or explain to us what shadow work is and why it's so crucial for personal growth today.
So I'll start. Carl Jung was known to say in a lecture, someone asked him, Dr. Jung is our hope for the world. This was after the first hydrogen bomb exploded after World War II. It was tested, and he said, there is hope if enough of us do our work. And that's our inner work. And so what we're unaware of, we're going to think it's fate. And so in order for us personally to live conscious, considered, and let's say purposeful, meaningful lives, we need to become aware, self-aware. And we have the elements, all of us have the elements of good, like Mother Teresa or Gandhi, and all of us have the elements of the bad, like Hitler and the others. It's in us. And we have a responsibility to own those parts of ourselves. And if we don't, what we don't own, we project out. We project it onto our spouses, our kids, our community, and collectively we spread it out. And this is how wars start. So collectively, this is how wars start. I'd like to share a quote by Robert Johnson, who is a student of Jung. And it goes like this: a whole generation can live a modern civilized life without ever touching much of its shadow nature. Then predictably, 20 years is the allotted time that unlived shadow will erupt and a war will burst forth that no one wanted, but to which everyone has contributed. And so that's why we have to own our shadows, because if they don't, they wreak havoc in the outer world, individually or collectively.
Why do you think the concept of shadow work is becoming more relevant in today's society than ever before?
Well, we can see it in the racism, the misogyny, the treatment of migrants and people trying to escape untenable situations. And so if the way we look at it, and this is why good people can do horribly evil things, And if we associate only with what we think is good, our morality, but we don't accept or integrate the shadow parts, we can do evil in the name of good. And an example of that is Hitler. He believed he was doing Christ's work to exterminate a subhuman, ungodly race, the Eastern countries, as well as the Jews. And soldiers marching into Eastern Europe, they wore on their belt buckles, they had a cross, God is with us.
It reminds you of the words for a song, One Tin Soldier, that said, go ahead and kill a neighbor, go ahead and kill a friend, do it in the name of heaven, justify it in the end.
Yes. Yeah, very profound and prophetic. And if we don't recognize that, these unsavory, these repressed, these let's even say evil parts of ourselves, if we don't own them and integrate them, we project them out. And that's the most common part of our shadow. We project out onto other people what we haven't owned in ourselves.
Deflection.
Yes. So in other words, what I don't like in somebody, there's a part of me I need to ask, what charges me, what makes me angry about someone, is that I have a part of myself I haven't owned. And when I see it in you or someone, I get very angry. And that's classic projection, which is one of the most common ways that our shadow leaks out.
With what we know about staying on track with President Trump for a good reason, we knew all about him after his first tenure.
Mm-hmm.
We saw what happened on January the 6th. We heard all the excuses, and yet he was voted back in. So is this a matter of the lesser of two evil?
How do you mean lesser of two evils? So,
well, at the time, and I'm just talking before President Biden gave up, people were tied, well, Joe Biden is old, he's this. But compared to Trump, it was like he was an angel. Biden was an angel. No, I don't think that there is one reason on God's green earth why anyone would ever believe that a president would incite a riot on Capitol Hill, and then when elected, he gives all these people presidential pardons. And this is coming from, I might add, a president who was charged and convicted and found guilty of a felony.
Yeah. Plus many more that he wasn't fully.
That's right.
Yeah. Plus many more. Yeah. Well, the way that I look at it is, there was Freud's nephew, Bernays, the father of PR, Edward Bernays. He used to, in his writings and his work, he was wildly successful as far as making companies successful.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote that you don't have to worry about the truth. Just stay on message and say the same thing over and over again. And don't worry about the truth, because if people hear something enough, they'll believe it. And that the big lie is just as easy to disseminate as the little lie. So I think what's happened is that concept has been magnified thousands of times over by these, I hate to say it, but the right-wing media. And when people listen to something like Fox News, they hear this over and over again, that it's a conspiracy, that Trump is fine, that he did nothing wrong, and this is a conspiracy to try to take him out of power. And I know some very kind, church-going, wonderful people who believe that because that's what they watch, that's what they hear every day.
I understand Fox is now the new training ground for people who want to enter politics and become the Secretary of Defense.
Yeah, sadly.
So the bigger the lie,
Doesn't matter.
That's right. Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Just say it over and over again. And if you have that echoed with, let's say, Fox News and other media outlets.
Right.
And now there's an interesting book by Robert Lustig. He called it The Hacking of the American Mind. He's a medical doctor. And what he found is that once we form a belief there's a part in the back of our brain called the reticular activating system. Its job is to screen out unnecessary data.
Right.
So in other words, once we hear something enough, we formed a belief, and our brain is then designed to screen out data that doesn't conform to our beliefs. And that's yeah.
So that would be like the equivalent to the search engine optimization system in your computer.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the algorithms are constantly going to feed us stuff that we looked at and that we have a belief, and then our brain becomes hardwired. So any data that doesn't conform to our belief system is going to enter consciousness. And if you have an argument with somebody that has a different perspective, it's going to trigger cortisol, the fight or flight response. So that's why we can have wars over ideology. And we think, what I believe is good, if I'm good and I wear a little pendant of a cross,
right,
and I must be good, you don't believe what I do, you must be evil, and I'm supposed to fight evil.
And here's the scary part, because even if you do not believe, or if you do believe, the object is to get the other person to believe, to give whatever you're trying to sell, or any concept that you're trying to get the masses to believe, is just multiplying by every time a person hears it. Every time a person hears it, it's like the 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on.
Mm-hmm. You know, and it can explain why Germany, at the time, one of the most civilized countries in the world, you know, fell prey to Hitler. And there he was. He was a corporal in World War I, a starving artist, billboard paper hanger, and yet he got transformed, you know, after seeing an opera in Wagner.
Yeah.
And so he had this kind of vision, a delusion of vision, however you may. And he had this magnetic kind of energy.
There are quite a few similarities between Adolf Hitler and President Trump. And if I can see it, if you can see it, how come the light isn't going on within the craniums of a lot of people to say, hey, you know what? We screwed up. Like, look what's happened in the matter of 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Well, Joseph Campbell said an illumination or regret is an illumination that's come too late. So I think a few people now, I know a number of people who regret voting for him. I've had friends that voted for Trump, and 3 of them, their wives lost their job. Another one can't do her dissertation, you know, because of all the funding. Right. And I think some folks now regret it, but that's an illumination that's come too late. And, you know, there are going to be some diehards that really believe, and they have this kind of fanatical religious kind of sense that they're doing God's work. And my gosh, after that assassination attempt, or alleged assassination attempt, now he's got that sense, God has kept me alive so I can do my work. And how do you argue with someone who believes this is God's mandate?
It's hard. It's very, very hard. Because at the same time, this person may be as crooked as a dog's hind leg, their belief is strong. And it's just magnified by the fact that, yes, he now truly believes that he is on a mandate from God, or the other side could be is that the great deception worked. Yeah.
Some people, I forget who termed this, but they said Trump is an authentic liar. And that would mean that he believes some of the delusions he believes, but he's so used to lying, he comes across as authentic and believable. And I think people have been captured by this persona when he's on The Apprentice and this larger-than-life figure, and they project, and that's another projection, that he's carrying a lot of people's projection, and somehow they feel that he is going to, many of the the fundamentalist Christians believe that he is right on par with Jesus.
That is scary.
Yeah.
That is truly scary. Peter, stand by. You and I have to take a break. Unbelievable. To think that this is actually happening is mind-boggling. And the worst part is, Peter, this is just the beginning.
Yes.
This is just the beginning. Exonation, if you'd like to find out more about our guest this hour, Peter METZNER, his website is dynamicchange.inc.com. And Peter and I will be back on the other side of this break as we continue from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Whatever you do, don't go away.
NASA has confirmed that they have evidence of life beyond Earth.
This discovery is confirmed.
Let's see, we've had visitors again. Yeah. Anything worth mentioning?
I filmed 16 minutes on March 5th, 1994, 16 minutes of broad daylight UFO activity.
The other side, the spirit realm, is a parallel dimension which runs, which coexists with ours. And what spirits are doing is they're sending waves of frequency from that dimension to ours.
The government instituted the truth embargo. The government poured disinformation and misinformation into this field, encouraging hoaxes and any other foolishness. It created a truth vacuum that naturally was going to be filled with theories and assertions and other stuff.
The oil oligarchs and the banks and the people who are making decisions that are leading us down the wrong path.
They've undermined the research, intimidated and threatened witnesses. The government is responsible for the fact that the status of this issue is not resolved.
I'm Rob McConnell, host and executive producer of the X Zone radio show. Now we are set to bring the amazing world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology to broadcast TV and online video with the development of X Zone TV. X Zone TV will now bring our loyal listeners and new viewers face to face with the most controversial and well-known personalities in the field of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology. From scientists to theorists, astronauts to adventurers, celebrities, pundits, advocates, and naysayers, they'll all join our rapid-fire TV broadcast, interactive discussion, and debate. Interest in the paranormal and parapsychology has never been more intense, and it continues to grow. The truth is out there, so take a deep breath and join us as we step into the light. For more information about X Zone TV, please contact me, Rob McConnell, directly at these coordinates, Rob McConnell at xzonetv.com.
Explanation. Peter METZNER is our special guest this hour. His website is dynamicchangeinc.com. We're talking about the shadow, and in your experience, how does the shadow work impact both our personal and professional life? Is there a way that we can separate them, or do they just come as a package deal?
Well, it is a package deal, but at the same time, the good news is that when we accept the unsavory, repressed parts of ourselves and we own them, that's how we become integrated. That's how we become whole. And I'd like to posit even holy. And so to really become integrated, I think there was who was the poet? It'll come to me. I think it was Blake, who said that we go to heaven for inspiration and hell for form. And when you marry the two, then that's when you become integrated. And I think what happens is that we have become separated from ourselves. That's why we see the separation from nature. You know, the diminishment of women in so many societies, and that's actually a part of the split within ourselves. And as we become whole and heal these parts of ourselves, accept these parts of ourselves, that's when we become more accepting and have more of a healing presence on the world. And I think you can see the fissures that we have, disconnected from nature, disconnected from ourselves, disconnected from the various cultures in the world. And when we see ourselves as separate and alone, and that insecurity drives us, then you can see the destructive behavior that's happening individually and collectively.
Can we change it? Can we actually reverse the cause as well as the damage that the negative shadows have actually caused in our life? And if we can change it in our life, does it automatically trickle onto those who may have also been affected by our negative shadow work?
I think two things that come up as we do our work, there's a ripple effect. It's like pebbles in a pond.
Right.
And so in the work that I do, when I work with leaders sometimes, and they really become more aware, and let's define psychological maturity. When somebody's mature, they've learned to accept themselves, they've learned to accept others, and they've learned to be responsible for the impact they've had on others and the role that they played in creating their situations. So when a person becomes more mature, they're a better parent, they're a better leader. And they're better, more likely to be aligned to what really matters, to be purposeful and meaningful. And so, yes, if enough of us do our work, we can create islands of sanity at home, in our neighborhoods, and in our workplace. And so the key is, if enough of us do our work, then that's a greater ripple effect. And unfortunately, there's so much fear. So many people are shut down, paralyzed in fear. And then if we don't take a stand and if we don't do our work, then you can see what's going to happen. So it's a mandate to do our work. And I think that's the hope that I have.
What role do dreams play when it comes to the shadow?
Well, I'd like to say that dreams are trying to wake us up.
Okay.
Especially nightmares. Nightmares are trying to wake us up to what we need to address, but can't. There was a psychologist in Germany in the early 30s, before Hitler really fully come to power, and she was recording the dreams of Germans, and she found over and over again people having dreams of a hospital with barbed wire and people being tortured, cattle cars filled with people going into darkness and to just very disturbed. He's found so many themes. And so when Hitler did come to power, she was, again, like so many others, eliminated, and her work. But what it shows is that unconsciously, we are all connected. Many psychologists, especially Jungians, will say on a soul level, we're all connected, and that we're picking up on this energy. And so much of this is affecting us. And yet, if enough of us, start to own those unsavory aspects and become whole and integrated, there's also force that can go out there. So that means enough of us have to do our work.
So dreams can actually act as a bridge.
Yes, dreams can tell us what we need to know but don't know in our waking life, and they'll speak in symbolism, the language of the artist, metaphor, and the shadowy dreams. I'll give you one shadow dream that I had many years ago. I was working for a nonprofit in Manhattan, and I wasn't the right fit in the organization, and it wasn't good for me either. And I had a dream that I was in a prison, and I was working in the prison with an optometrist. And then I see somebody in a cell, and it looked exactly like me. I had a mustache at the time, and it was me. And this inmate came out, put a knife to my throat, and said, "You take me home, otherwise I'm going to slash your throat." And then to me, that realized, okay, there's a split I had to integrate, that there was something that I really had to work on.
You've worked extensively with dream work. What is one of the most profound insights a dream has revealed itself to you about, the waking life?
Yeah, I worked with a lot of nightmares that people had.
Right.
And there was a student in one of my classes. I taught psychology 13 years, and I would bring dream work and do dream circles in all the classes. And so I have a whole folder, and eventually that's going to become a book. But this woman, on a Tuesday, Thursday class, her head would be on the table. She'd be sound asleep. And it turned out later, I realized that she and her boyfriend, they had a drinking problem, and she was hungover at 9:30 in the morning. She could barely keep her head up. And so when we talked about dreams, she came alive, and she shared this dream that she's in a car. Her boyfriend's driving. She's in the back seat. There's liquor bottles, cases of beer. The car's swerving, going around a corner, and it's out of control. And then she started tearing up and said, "Oh my God, am I going to die?" And with dream work, I don't want to analyze anybody's dream, but the dreamer is the expert on their dream. And I think a good way to work with dreams is just to say, if this were my dream, this is what comes up for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, if this were my dream, I'd feel like I'm not in the driver's seat, and that if it were my dream, I'd say the dream is warning me. If I don't address something very profound with all this liquor in the car, something bad could happen. And from that dream, she started seeing a psychologist, went to rehab, got her boyfriend to go to rehab, and then she got accepted into one of the medical programs. So that one dream changed her life.
In dreams, there's a lot of symbology, and your symbols would be different from mine.
Yes.
But does that work the same way with shadows?
Yeah, I think so. So a shadow is going to be a part of ourselves that splits off. And I just recently had a dream that I'm, working with, where I'm giving a talk, and I go to do something else, talk to a woman, and I come back and I missed the talk. Everybody's gone, and I'm in big trouble. And it showed me some of my insecurities about, okay, how am I blocking myself, and how am I keeping myself from putting my work out there? So that was for me a very good shadow dream, to be able to say what's going on in me, that I'm not letting myself be put out there, my voice being heard. So every dream is going to come to give us healing and wholeness. And the scary dreams and nightmare dreams, that's the unconscious screaming at us, pay attention. And the danger of not paying attention, there's one woman, another analyst, I'll remember her name in just a moment. She said, if we don't pay attention to the nightmares, then the unconscious will ratchet up the ante. So we start to get a physical symptom. So we've got to pay attention to what's the unconscious screaming at us.
Why do we dream? Like, I can understand we've talked about certain aspects of dreaming, the symbology, but what is the physiological reason for us to dream? Is it like we're purging the information that we've gathered during the day that is just too much for us to handle?
Well, I would say, for me, the word processing works better than purging. So we're processing.
Okay.
And again, our unconscious is taking in data all the time.
Yeah.
And so when we sleep, it not only regenerates our body, we need to sleep, to have our cells regenerate. But what is happening when we're asleep, our mind is processing, and the dreams are giving us some insight about things we need to know but don't know in our waking life. And it's more than just shadow work. Inventors like Einstein, he stated the theory of relativity came from a dream. He's a teenager on a sled. That sled went so fast, like the speed of light. And he said his entire career was an extended meditation of that dream. So the dreams are giving us sometimes insights, solving problems, and they're kind of like the reins of a horse. And if we're going off track in our life, our dream's going to tell us, hey, dude, you're going off track. You need to get back here. And it also poses another question, that we have an identity. You and I are talking. We have a consciousness.
Right.
This is the sense of I. But there's another intelligence going. If this I is making a decision that's counterproductive, then the unconscious is going to give a message, sometimes in a very dramatic way, to say, hey, dude, let's get back on the right track. So isn't that interesting that there's another intelligence going on that separate from the sense of these beliefs or erroneous attitudes or things that we think is right that maybe isn't, or self-defeating?
I've spoken to a number of people doing shows about dreams, and there are certain dreams that everybody has. For example, one that always comes up is the person who's naked, standing in front of a crowd, teaching. Or the person or the male who has a dream that his genitals fall off. Why do we all seem to have certain dreams that we share with many people, and yet there are those dreams that are very private and just for us?
So right. So there's that private part, and then there's the archetypal universal thing. So you think that there are certain building blocks, just like genes, but there's certain building blocks. So we have a shared consciousness.
Right.
And let's say with somebody who is teaching naked, I've had similar dreams. If it were my dream and somebody shared that, I'd say, okay, in what way if it were my dream, I'd say it in first person. I wouldn't try to project my meaning onto somebody's dream, because the dreamer's the expert. But I'd say, gosh, for my dream, I'd feel like maybe I'm unprepared, or maybe I'm feeling too vulnerable, or maybe I'm feeling like I'm just not dressed, for this occasion.
In your opinion, do we have to spend more time and realize that consciousness and unconsciousness need to be better understood, and that they both play a very pivotal part in our day-to-day existence.
Right. Well, I would say let's go to the unconsciousness or the unawareness.
All right.
As Jung and so many of the depth psychologists say that if the things that we're unaware about, we're going to think that is fate. We're going to experience things in our life, and that's a reflection of the things, the unconscious attitudes, beliefs, or motivations are going to create patterns in our life. And if we're not aware, we may think, well, I've just faded. I just have bad luck, or these things keep happening to me. And the gift of being conscious and aware that we can see that, that these unconscious beliefs or attitudes or motivations drive my behavior. So how do I become aware? When I'm aware of them, now I have a choice. And I think ultimately we have to learn to accept ourselves.
In your opinion, and based on the experience that you've had over the years, do men and women basically have the same dream patterns, or are they different?
Well, I would say yes and no.
Okay.
Let's just talk a little bit about the differences between men's and women's brains. A big difference is there's a bridge between the left brain and the right brain. It's called the corpus callosum. So women have a high-speed internet connecting the right and left brain. So left brain usually considered to be logic, linear thinking, cause and effect, morals, principles. Right brain, feelings, emotion, empathy, intuition. You could even say, intuition to the point of psychic ability, right brain. So men, unfortunately, have a 14 bits per second modem that doesn't work very well. And how does that play out? Well, men don't have the same access as they do to emotions. And when researchers or neuroscientists put an fMRI, a man and a woman talking to each other under brain imaging, her brain is lit up like a Christmas tree, and his brain is only lit up in 2 or 3 places. So there you go. So very distinct differences.
Especially if you're the person that has only the 2 or 3 lights on compared to the person that has the entire package on.
Right. It could be overwhelming. So when's the wedding? She say, my gosh, I have to get the shirt, I have to get the dress, you have to get the present. And you're the, oh my God, I just want to know what day the wedding was.
Exactly. Who said we were getting married anyway? Taking a look at today's situation. How can society take all this garbage we're getting from so many different sources and try to make a better understanding or have a better feeling about what reality is and what's nothing else but a bunch of BS?
Yeah. Well, I think the short answer to that is if there's any news item or anything that's in any news feed, regardless if it's left or right, anything that makes me angry or anything that makes a person angry or afraid, there's an agenda behind it. So that's the first thing. Anything that rouses anger or fear, because that's how we control people. People, if we can make people afraid, we can control them. And that's what Trump is effectively doing, creating fear of anybody who stands up. And so the anger, you can see, I forget who the philosopher who said it. If you can make people believe the ridiculous, you can make them do the unthinkable. And so we have to be very vigilant and really seek out trusted news sources. And I think it's important to look at both sides. And I have a magnet on my refrigerator that reminds me every day. It says a simple phrase, don't believe everything you think. I see that every time I open up the refrigerator, and it kind of challenges me not to believe everything I think.
Wow. We could go on for hours and hours and hours, but unfortunately, my friend, the time is up for tonight. Peter, what are your final thoughts, and what would you like to share with the X-Zone Nation tonight?
Well, there is hope for the world, and I think each of us need to do our work. And I think part of it really comes with accepting ourselves and also giving up the need to be right. M. Scott Peck, the late psychiatrist and theologian, he said that moral certainty, that he'll find evil in the absolute certainty of the rightness of our cause. So we have to give up this certainty, and we have to be open to other people's ideas and give up this need to be right and to dominate, and really do our work, heal ourselves. And when we do that, that does our part for healing the world, each of us.
And if somebody would like to contact you, Peter, what's the best way to do that?
Going through my website, dynamicchangeinc.com. It has, I can answer emails through that. Also has contact information there.
Peter, thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to the next time we meet here in the X Zone, and maybe by that time there will be a little bit more semblance to sanity.
Yes.
This world that we call reality.
Indeed. I look forward to that, and also doing my part as well. And thank you for the work that you do. Certainly a privilege.
You take care of yourself, Peter.
Thank you, Rob.
And X Zone Nation, that's it for tonight. I'll be back tomorrow night. Yeah, that's right, Friday night. I'll be back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that we call the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And I guess I can only leave us with a little bit of wisdom. I know, coming from me, many people saying, what the hell is she talking about now? But anyway, do me a favor, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Take care of each other. Good night now.